Hello Mech Warriors, and welcome to your review of the May tournament for the MRC, The Great Refusal. This tournament is based around the massive trial of refusal between the Inner Sphere and the clans in 3061. Each player will pick a faction and play as either a clanner or a Star League citizen. In each match, you'll get half your score from the objectives and half from combat points, and then the winner gets an additional 20 victory points. You also get a bonus 10 VPs if your faction wins for that week. And there are also many other ways to get victory points. The first one is Zellbreken. Yes, that's right, this is a trial of refusal, meaning that Zellbreken is in effect. If you break a duel challenge before your opponent does, you give them 5 victory points. Of course, players are completely free to dismiss this, such as if you're facing a Dirty Capellan, for example. The NFL format is a basic format for all tournaments, and I'd recommend that you give it a look if you plan on participating. The event is based on 9,000 battle value 2 and must be submitted by May 3rd. Each player will take 4 to 6 battle mechs, omni-mechs, combat 4 to 6 mechs, battle armor, or combat vehicles, all chosen from one MUL faction. For example, here is the Draconis Combine Clan Invasion list. Each side can also take either the Inner Sphere General or the Clan General list of units. There are limits on what you're allowed to take, however. Clans are only allowed to take frontline units, omni-mechs, and battle armor, and Star League factions cannot take intro tech units. What this means is that Inner Sphere players pretty much don't get tanks, because almost every tank is an intro tech unit, and a lot of great mechs are also limited by this. For example, one of my favorite mechs, the Grasshopper 5H, is listed as introductory on Master Unit list, meaning that you cannot take it. Skills must start at 4-5 or 5-4, and they use the one-step rule, so you could have a unit that is 3 gunnery for piloting, but not 2 gunnery for piloting. Here's the list of clan factions available, and all of the Star League factions. There's a couple of fluff rules here. If you are Smoke Jaguar, you have to include at least 1 point of elementals, and these are going to have to be your leader in one of the scenarios. And the FedCom are required to bring a Direwolf, either Prime or B variant. You can't use any of the other variants. Now, everyone knows that clan pulse lasers are really annoying. My best clan weapons video went over why large pulse lasers are so good. Go check that out if you're interested. Inner Sphere is only allowed up to a maximum of 36 pulse damage, and clans are only allowed 24 pulse damage. There's also limits on what kind of ammo you can take. You can't use artillery. There's a lot of interesting ammo types that you can use here. I personally wouldn't recommend Thunder because it costs a lot of battle value, but some people might not know heat seeking actually saves you battle value if you have an extra ton of LRMs that you don't actually really need. Might be worth taking. Einarch, Haywire, and Nemesis pods are allowed, which is pretty crazy. These things are super powerful. You'll have to play Comstar if you want them though. It should be noted that you cannot change your ammo types between rounds. Whatever you take when you make your list, that is what you have to take. This brings us to cheese scores and bonus victory points. These things here are to discourage super cheesy units from being used, and these are to promote list building creativity. So you lose 5 victory points if you take more than 1 unit with jump 7 or greater, and if you take more than 1 unit that moves at least 15 hexes. So a Hermes or most VTOLs would fall under this. And finally, any pulse weapons on a jump 6 or greater unit are also penalized, which is particularly punishing for certain units. There's a Chameleon that I like to run with an ER large laser, pulse laser, and a medium laser. I can't take that without getting some demerits here. And you also get bonus points if you have no units that jump more than 5. So taking any 6 jumper like a Firestarter is going to immediately cost you some points. I'm going to be going over some of the best units available for this tournament, and it's from the perspective of getting these bonus points, so I also won't be including many assault mechs. Plus 2 points if you have a unit with skill of 2 or better. This can be gunnery or piloting, as long as the base battle value is greater than 1200. I'm going to be showing you what I think is the best unit for this, but we'll get into that. And finally, if you don't take any head capping weapons, so for Inner Sphere that's AC-20s, LB-20s, and Gauss, and for clanners that also includes ER-PPCs. If you have any of these head capper weapons, you don't get the bonus points. If you manage to get all 4 of these, you get an extra 2 victory points. points. So you can get up to 10 victory points just for building within these limitations. That's 10% of the maximum score that you can get, and probably more like 15 or 20% for most matches. So I think that it's definitely worth it for you to try and build within these limitations here. It can be a fun exercise just to see what you can do, and it might win you some games. So let's get into scoring. Combat scoring is based on your battle value percentage. So if you destroy 50% of your opponent's battle value before the match ends, you'll get 25 points for combat scoring. And scoring for objectives is based on the weekly scenario. One important thing, you have to play the game through to the very end. If you want to quit, you'll just have to have your mechs all stand still and wait for the enemy to kill you. This is just because it's not fair to your opponent or the rest of the players if the game isn't scored properly. Basic player responsibilities: don't be a dick to your opponent, make sure that all of the rules are set up correctly, keep note in the chat of your points, keep a running tally. Games last for 15 turns or until 80% of one side's battle value is destroyed or fled. Time limit is 3 hours unless both players agree to longer. We do have new players, and if you're a new player, just let your opponent know, yeah, I'm gonna need maybe 4 or 5 hours to get through it. But with Mega Mech, typically matches for me don't last longer than about 2 hours, so this shouldn't be a problem for most people. It's pretty rare that you go the full 15 turns, especially with the kinds of objectives that we have for this tournament. They're pretty much just go and smash your opponent, so typically 10-12 turns are how long most matches, in my experience, last. Special game rules for tac ops stuff: we have taking damage, double blind. That means that you can't see your opponent unless one of your mechs can see them. There are sensors that you can turn on to get sensor readings though. Simultaneous firing and physics. This means that you're not going to be able to see who your opponent attacks before you get to attack. And it also means that Zellbriggen is going to have to be called out at the beginning of each match before the firing phase. TAC Ops vehicle effectiveness. Basically it means that hover tanks are a little bit more viable. Battle armor versus battle armor damage. TAC Ops starting fires, meaning that you can set forests on fire, which is pretty cool. And front-loaded initiative, meaning that if you have, say, 2 or 3 units left and your opponent has like 5 or 6, it will make your opponent take a couple of turns in a row. It just means that initiative is a little bit more balanced. Most of the maps are going to be on a 37 by 27 map. It is a predetermined random map generator. The map is going to have a lot of forests and hills, but not much else. There won't be any buildings or concrete. There might be a couple of swamps and little bits of water here and there. The most I've ever seen this file generate is like a river in one corner. Let's get into missions and then we'll go over some mech recommendations. So week 1, cut off the head. You have to kill the enemy commander. Your commander must be the best skilled or tied for the best skilled of all mech pilots. So you can have like a 1-1 VTOL. That won't be your commander. It has to be a mech. So your 2-3 mech or your 3-4 mech if you have like all 4-5 pilots. If you destroy the enemy commander, you gain 40 objective points. If the enemy commander is only crippled, gain 20 objective points. Ending the game with your commander still functional grants you 10 objective points. So your commander can be crippled as long as they're still alive. You still get 10 points. If you are Smoke Jaguar, you have to take a point of elementals regardless of skill. This means that a dasher with some elementals strapped to it is probably going to be your best friend if you're a Smoke Jaguar player. Just run that dasher around and hide it, and the enemy will never be able to catch your commander. And even if they do, they're going to have to kill the dasher and then chew through 5 elementals. That is not easy for an Inner Sphere player to do. If you are FedCom, your commander has to be your direwolf regardless of skill. This is kind of nice because now you can take any other kind of mech. Like you can take a direwolf at a 4-5 and then just take any other mech as 3-4, 3-2, whatever. Direwolves are really expensive though. In 9,000 battle value, I really don't want to play FedCom. If you choose to play either of those factions, scoring is adjusted to allow you to gain 30 objective points for your commander remaining functional at the end of the game. So what this means is that if you are FedCom or Smoke Jaguar, you automatically get 30 objective points instead of 10. And if you destroy the enemy commander, you get 20 points. If the enemy commander is crippled, you get 10 points. Week 2, Fisticuffs. You just have to fight in melee. You get 25 objective points for succeeding in a death from above attack. I absolutely love this. And if you kill the target with it, you get another 25 VP. So that's your victory points right there, meaning that you want a jumping unit unit with high piloting skill. Pulling off death from aboves is not easy. Successful charges gain 10 objective points. All other physical attacks will give you 5, and each punch is a separate attack. So you can get 10 points from punching, 10 points from charging, 25 from DFA, or 50 if you kill someone with a DFA. And them falling off a cliff and critting their own head off will count. You get 3 tiebreaker points for each failed DFA attempt, and 1 tiebreaker point for each other failed physical attack. Tiebreaker points mean that if you tie in victory points at the end of the match, you win if you have more tiebreaker points than your opponent. So just attempting DFAs will give you a lot of tiebreaker points if you happen to tie with your opponent's score. It's not super likely, but it does help to alleviate when the dice screw you. Week 3 is a little bit different. This one has a specific map. Now I'm going to show you how to look these maps up in MegaMech. Firstly, you're going to pull up your Windows search and you're going to type in the name of the map. So Frozen Streams. It tells you what size the map is, 16 by 17. You go into MegaMech, 16 by 17, search Frozen River. We want to set that as board 0. And then you want to make the map width 2. And now you can set Frozen Streams as board 2. Oh, I got them backwards. No big deal. And then you can hit preview game map and it'll show the map to you. So as you can see, it's a frozen area with ice all around the center with hills and heavy woods. Here's the rules for snowfall and temperature. Conventional infantry will just die. They can't live in this kind of temperature, so I wouldn't recommend taking regular infantry. And vehicles are slow, also not great there. Now on turn 1, each player is going to fly a little sprint scout helicopter into Hex 1709 and eject it. Each round, player who has more uncrippled units within 2 hexes of the objective scores 5 victory points. Battle armor and infantry must be dismounted and VTOLs must be landed to contest the objective. Earn 1 tiebreaker point for each unit you end a round with at 15 heat or higher. That's actually pretty difficult because you sink an additional 2 heat every turn in very cold temperatures. Northwest and southeast deployment. So right here is Hex 1709. One player is going to deploy along this corner here, along these 2 sides, and the other player is going to deploy along this side. Now, it's hard for me to say which side is going to actually be better. You get to fight from on top of a hill if you deploy in the northwest, but there's less stuff in your way to get there in the southeast, and you get first claim to these forests, which are right next to the objective. So both sides have some advantages. The northwest player, the only cover that's in the objective is this light woods right here. Meanwhile, the southeast player gets 3 forests and a heavy woods that they can fight from that are in range of the 1709 hex. So this little island here in the middle is going to just be a death arena. Week 4 is quite simply just a battle. You just fight the enemy. Again, it's on a random map like the first 2 missions, and each side gets a conventional aircraft. The aircraft do not break Zellbriggen rules. And here are the 2 fighters. Personally, I think that the clan player is getting a little bit screwed here. Their fighter has limited ammo and less armor, and it has worse gunnery. So the inner sphere player gets 3 large lasers and 4 medium lasers versus 2 ER medium lasers and an Ultra AC-10. I guess the extra movement will be helpful, but overall I think that it's going to be way too hard for either side to bring these things down. They have a pretty ridiculous amount of armor. Now for this one, since there's no objective points to be scored, your combat score is just doubled. So however much of the enemy battle value you destroy before they destroy up to 80% of yours, that's how many points you get. And I will say, these planes are pretty expensive. Almost 2,000 battle value apiece means that they're going to be worth a good chunk if you manage to destroy them. So bringing some good anti-aircraft weapons, not a bad idea in my opinion. Alright, we've covered scenarios and how the tournament works. Let's get into some mech recommendations. Here is the list of all of the great units that the Inner Sphere General list has to offer in my opinion. If you think that I missed anything in any of these lists, please let me know in the comments. I would love to hear what you think are some great options. Like I said, I'm not gonna cover assault mechs just because taking assault mechs automatically costs you 2 victory points and they're expensive, meaning that it's gonna be really tough to fit them in a 9,000 battle value list already. So I personally don't think that they're worth it. Gallo class. Great heavy cavalry mech, 2 large lasers, twin medium pulse lasers, ERPPC 463, just about 1700 battle value. This thing's a little bit pricey, but it's an energy boat, it's got lots of armor, pretty decent mobility, solid take. Griffin 3M, LRM 20, ERPPC, it's not the toughest mech around, but it is a solid sniper, and it has Griffin mobility, it's pretty decent. Chameleon 7Z, like I said, 6 jump, probably not something that you want, but this is a decent mech, 2 large lasers and an ER large laser. The Blackjack Omnis, I want to point something out. The BJ2O is a pretty solid mech. 4 medium lasers, 4 machine guns, 20 shots for the ACs. This mech can either stand off at range with the Ultra ACs or close in to melee and lay on some real hurt with 8 shots. Solid armor, 152. It does have an XL engine, which makes it a little bit squishy. It has double heat sinks, meaning that it never overheats unless it starts taking engine crits. And it's one of the best mechs available at 1201 battle value, which is, you'll remember, pretty much exactly what we need for this +2 victory points. There's no other mech that is at 1201 battle value available to the Inner Sphere. Moving on, the Firestarter Omnis are all really solid, but they are 6 jumpers, which is going to cost you those victory points. The Apollo is a weird 55-tonner with 4/6 movement, solid armor, has twin LRM 15s. If you want a cheap LRM boat, this is pretty good. The Ost Scout is a classic kick machine. It's super cheap. You take it to jump behind enemies and kick them. That's basically its purpose. It has a tag so that if you want to do an LRM strategy with semi-guided missiles, you can. Semi-guided are really, really good. They ignore all enemy movement penalties to your shooting. So if you can hit a light mech with a tag and hit it with some semi-guided missiles, that thing is going to be in a world of hurt. The Line Holder, solid 55-tonner with 5/8 movement, no jump jets, just guns. 1214 BV for the LH3, 3 long-range guns, 2 close-range guns. It's a solid escort unit, cavalry skirmisher. It can fill a lot of great roles in your list. The Ostrock 2D is a really standout unit for one reason. It costs under 1400 battle value. The 5/8 60-tonner, meaning that it will kick pretty hard. A lot of people are going to look at it and say 144 armor, yuck. But it has all of the weapons in the torsos, and it strips all of the armor off of the arms, meaning that it has 20 armor in every important location. So this thing can still take a real beating, and if it loses its arms, you should be rejoicing, because it means that your enemy has shot something that's essentially useless on your mech. It does have very low rear armor, so be careful about letting enemies get behind you, especially with that SRM4 ammo in the center torso. Now we're getting into a few assaults if you want to take them. The Awesome 9M, really solid, triple ERPPCs. It does have ammo, which means it can explode, but at 1812 battle value with 40 heat sinking, this thing can just fire ERPPCs every single round. The 9Q Awesome is a little pricier, 4 PPCs, not the ER version, so this has to get a little bit closer. Can't fire them every round. It will build up 2 heat or 4 heat if running. It's a little pricier, but if you want a solid brawler with no ammo to explode, the Awesome 9Q has you covered. The Orion is a heavy, and it's down here because it has a command console. Some of these assault mechs are much better than the heavy mechs that you have available that carry command consoles. In particular, in my opinion, the 1GDC is a really solid assault mech. At 1494 BV, it's only slightly more expensive than the Orion or the Warhammer that we'll talk about in a moment, but it still has really, really excellent firepower, great armor, and it has that awesome command console. If you don't know what those do, it gives you a +2 to your initiative roll, meaning that you can more often get initiative, which is really important, especially in that melee-based mission. 2 Atlases, both with command consoles. The DDC is a standard Atlas pretty much. Doesn't have rear-mounted medium lasers, but has the AC-20, the LRM-20. Decent mech, a little pricey. I would go for the Battlemaster first. The Atlas KDC is a little bit different. It has an XL engine, AMS, has a Gauss, 2 ER large lasers, and an LRM-20 with 1 ton of ammo, so it only has 6 shots with that thing. Very pricey, 2160 BV. I've used this mech a couple times. It always seems to just get the XL engine engine blown up, so I don't really like it. It's a little too expensive in my opinion. There's two Orions. There's one that really sucks ass that has a standard AC-10, and there's this one that has an XL engine. Those two mechs are the only universally available command console mechs, meaning that you can take them in any list, but they do have some problems. Namely, this Orion carries a heck of a lot of ammo in its side torsos, and it has an XL engine. If any of those get crit, the thing is gone. Grand Titan, a pretty decent 100-tonner with an XL engine. If you're looking for a really powerful brawler, this is pretty good for 1817 BV. It does not have a command console. The Emperor has a 353 excellent movement profile, twin LB-10Xs, 2 large lasers, 2 medium pulse, and a meat-las. Under 2000 battle value for this many weapons and this much armor with a nice 353 movement profile, meaning it can get up to a perch and fight from there pretty easily. That's overall pretty good. The Blackhawks, I believe everyone but the Free Worlds League can use all of the Blackhawk variants. So you've got that medium laser boat, that thing's pretty good, and there's a couple of other ones that are pretty cheap on BV. There's one with like a large pulse laser that's okay as a brawler. So everyone but the Free Worlds League can use those. Fedcom, keep in mind you have to take a Direwolf. That's going to take up about a third of your list. So you've got access to the Night Sky 5S, great little melee mech. I'm not a huge fan of the Night Sky. They also have the Marauder 5D DC. I think this is probably the best of the command console mechs. It's a 464. It has an XL engine, meaning that it is a little bit squishy, but it has lots of armor, twin ERPPCs, a large pulse laser, and some close range pulse lasers. It's a pretty decent heavy cavalry mech overall, and it comes with a command console. I would definitely recommend this if you have the battle value budget. Fedcom's got the Hunchy 5S, has an LB-20, 464, 2 medium pulse lasers, 1350 battle value, solid little mech. The Guillotine 5M is the worst of the two available guillotines. A lot of guillotines are intro tech, meaning that you can't take them. So the 5M and the 3N are the only ones available, and they're alternately available for different factions. The Star Slayer is a primo cavalry mech. I really love this thing. Twin large lasers, twin medium lasers, and SRM4, 585 movement profile. It does almost as much damage as the Star. It does almost as much damage overall as the Guillotine, and has a much better movement profile. It does have about 30 less armor. So Star Slayer 3C, very good cavalry mech. The 3D swaps one large laser for an ERPPC. I think it's worse. I think this is a worse mech overall. The Penetrator 4D, one of the best cavalry mechs in the game. 6 medium pulse lasers, 2 ER large lasers, just enough heat sinks to fire either set of weapons. 1687 BV, this is a bargain. The Axeman 3S, pretty fun mech. Has an LB-20, 3 medium lasers, 464 with a light fusion engine, unlike other Axemen. And of course, it's got that big hatchet, 180 armor, 1650 battle value. I can't really justify taking one of these when the Penetrator exists, so I'll let you be the judge. I think the Penetrator is going to outdo this thing pretty much every day of the week, especially because that LB-20 does lose you those bonus points for having no head capping weapon. Huron Warrior, 50-tonner, 5.8 movement, Gaussian and ER large laser. It's pretty cheap, decent. Thunderbolt 9S, solid trooper mech, lots of anti-infantry weapons. They're not gonna be particularly useful in this one, I don't think, but if you want a tough 4.6 trooper mech, the Thunderbolt's got your back. The Draconis Combine. I think this is probably the faction that I'm going to play. They have a lot of really great mechs at their disposal. We've got the Warhammer 7M DC. This is a command console mech that can act as a sniper. 1400 battle value. It is dirt cheap. It does have only 160 armor. It is squishy. So it has 15 armor on the legs, 20 on the arms, 17 on the torsos. Standard fusion engine means that it's pretty much a zombie. It does carry some ammo. Personally, I think you might want to dump this if you are in risk of getting your armor pierced through. Overall, this guy wants to stand in the back and fire those PPCs. It doesn't have enough weapons to justify putting this in the brawl, in my opinion. Maybe once your other mechs have taken a real beating, you can have this step in and start taking some damage for them, but its purpose is to give you that initiative bonus and to fire ERPPCs every turn. Phoenix Hawk 2K, it's a 6.9 movement Phoenix Phoenix Hawk doesn't violate the 6 jump rule. ER large laser, 4 medium lasers, almost 1300 battle value. It's a little pricey, but it's pretty good. Now, the Crab C is kind of a standout in my opinion. 1135 battle value, has 2 large lasers and 16 heat sinks. It's a Crab, but better. This is very solid. You can also take the Crab 27, and it's literally just the basic Crab. Grand Dragon 5K, this is your alternative, only available to the Drax. Very cheap command console mech. 1322 battle value, but that's actually a little bit misleading. I'm going to show you a trick. Because heat-seeking ammo is available, you can put that in and it will lower the battle value of this mech. It's only 9 battle value, but it might make the difference between being able to take pilot skill up or a slightly better mech. And it's got 12 shots with normal ammo, and hey, if an enemy's overheating, which might actually happen because you can get tiebreaker points for it in one of the maps, and I'm pretty sure Infernos are going to be somewhat popular as a strategy because they're really good against elementals, heat-seeking might be a decent take. Now, I've just listed various Kintaros. Most of the Kintaros are pretty good. You don't get the Kintaro 21, that's a Comstar only mech. I think out of all of them, the Kintaro C is probably my favorite. Just under 1300 battle value, large laser, medium laser, 2 SRM6s. It has 2 bins, so it can take Infernos and regular ammo, and an LRM5 little pop gun that it can fire off. 179 armor, solid cavalry mech. Exterminator 4D, it's a medium laser boat, 6 jump, it's not all that great. Guillotine 3N is the better of the 2 guillotines. Guillotine, however you want to say it. 4 medium lasers, large laser SRM6. It's a classic guillotine. It does have case for the SRM6 ammo. Very important. If you want heavy cavalry on the cheap, the guillotine's your guy. Catapult K3. 2 ERPPCs, 2 medium lasers, 2 machine guns, no jump jets. This is a decent sniper for its battle value. 2 Komodos. You've got the variant with the ER large laser for 1415 BV, or the medium laser spam unit for 1533 BV. They have XL engines. I would say that these are both quite good. They are just a little bit squishy. The Black Knight, solid unit. 2 large lasers and a PPC, medium lasers for up close, plenty of armor, no ammo to explode. You cannot go wrong with a Black Knight. Crusader 4K, a very inexpensive unit. Only 1268 battle value. It's got a couple LRM-10s, couple SRM-6s, couple medium pulse lasers. It's slow, it's got a standard engine. It's a Crusader. If you want a flexible trooper, pretty solid. Warhammer 7K, this is your premium sniper with close range weapons to back up its ERPPCs. Overall, a little overpriced, but if you want an escort unit and you're going heavy on the long range weapons, not a bad buy. The Nodachi 2KO, too many pulse lasers. It's banned. Kind of a shame because this thing is absolutely terrifying with TSM and all these lasers. I will say you can take the 2K Nodachi. It takes up pretty much your whole pulse laser budget, but it's not a bad melee mech, and it does have TSM and ECM, which is kind of nice to have. Artemis is actually surprisingly common in this era. Got the Kabuto, it's a cheap little light mech. If you've got some leftover battle value, it's a decent filler unit. Same with all of the tanks here. The Zephyr hover tank, maybe not so much. Tokugawa tank, I wouldn't take. It's cheap, but it's wheeled, can't go through forests. There's lots of forests on these maps, and it's going to be extremely slow on the winter map. Free Worlds League, we also have the Warhammer here. Definitely a decent take. I would take this over the Orion pretty much any day of the week. Guillotine 5M, again, it's the worst guillotine. Hunchback 5N, it's a 4G that has double heat sinks so it can fire all of its weapons. Again, we got a Black Knight, Black Knight's solid. The Snake is an interesting little cheap mech. LB10X, 3 Streak SRM2s, a 585 movement, under 1000 battle value for all that gun is pretty solid. The Falcon Hawk, it's a light, it comes in 2 flavors. It's got an XL engine, it moves 5.8, it's pretty slow, but it can fend off light mechs with medium pulse lasers while supporting your long range guys with an ERPPC, or you've got the Brawler variant, ER large laser, medium laser, and a small pulse laser. Not bad as a cavalry unit. It's going to take a couple hits, but it's not terribly tough overall. Pretty decent for its cost. Bishamon! I like the Bishamon 4K quite a bit. Quad mechs can kick behind themselves, which is pretty cool, but they don't have torso twist. They can take some pretty good advantage of hills because only 6, 7, and 8 are torso hits, hits on a quad mech, everything else is legs. So if they're behind a 1 high hill, you're going to miss them on anything but a 6, 7, 8, or 12. 7-11 movement, it has an XL engine, but if quad mechs lose a side torso, they're basically screwed anyways. The 4K is a little bit closer range, a little bit less punch, but it's cheap as chips. 1105 battle value is not bad. It's fast enough that it can close and use all of these weapons pretty effectively. Comstar, the Lords of Improved Narc. If you want to test Improved Narc, try out Haywire pods, that kind of stuff. Comstar is where it's at. Tessin has an INARC, ERPPC, medium pulse tag. It's a 6'9 mover with 161 armor, XL engine. Pretty decent for its cost. Enfield 6Q, large pulse laser, twin medium lasers, LB10X, 2 tons of ammo, 5'8 XL, 1248 battle value. It's cheap, it's decent. Kintaro 21, do you want a missile boat that can also hit people with Haywire missiles? This is your guy. Guillotine 3N, we already covered. The Shadowhawk 2HT, 5 Streak SRM2s, a large laser and a medium laser, with 152 armor, just under 1500 battle value. I think you're better off with a couple of guillotines, but if you want something that's a little bit more nippy, able to keep itself alive with 3 TMM, and really great for crit seeking, the Shadowhawk is probably your take. Exterminator 5E, it can go 12 speed or ER medium lasers and an INARC. You'll find it under IS Experimental and Megamech. This thing is fast, disgustingly fast for a 65 tonner. It has 4 tons of ammo, meaning that you can take a couple different types of INARC pods. So you can take Haywire, you can take Explosive, you can take whatever you need for the given situation. Its extreme speed allows it to pull off charges that are pretty disgustingly powerful if you can get a long run-up. I can't remember if you round up for charge damage or not, but if you manage to get a full 11 hex charge off, you will do at least 66 damage. That is pretty significant. Archer 5CS, it has 4 LRM-15s. It will mess you up at long range. We have the Black Knight Royal variant. Twin large pulse lasers and an ER-PPC replace the large lasers and standard PPC. It has double heat sinks, so it can fire its entire close range complement of 4 medium lasers and 2 large pulse lasers all at once. It does cost a good chunk more battle value than the standard Black Knight. Same armor, it's arguable which one is better. Capellans, we've got the Warhammer. He is back. He is big. He is squishy, but he has PPCs. Guillotine, we covered. The Vindicator 5L. This is another solid melee mech, which might be very relevant in this tournament. No one is going to want to get close to this thing. It only has 20 heat sinks, but it has a lot of lasers because it has triple strength armor. Maxed armor on a 45 tonner isn't much, but it's enough to take an ERPPC to the torso and not get critted. The arms, not so much, but you probably want to kick anyways. It has a mix of odd and even heat-producing weapons and a sword that can help you to hit when your target numbers are very bad, such as maybe you jumped at an enemy who also jumped and they're in woods and they're a level above you. So this thing is one of the better TSM mechs that I've seen. It is rather pricey at 1500 battle value, but you get what you pay for. 5'8 movement with TSM is no joke. The Star Slayer we already covered. The Marshal, interesting little mech. 2 machine guns, LRM-5 flamer, medium laser, medium pulse laser, 464. Doesn't have case for its ammo, so it's gonna maybe explode, but under 1200 battle value for all of that with 180 armor, pretty solid. Huron Warrior we covered already. St. Ives has a pretty good little hatchet man, the 5S. It is an XL engine mech, but it has 3 medium pulse lasers and an LB10. Only 1 ton of ammo on the LB10, meaning that you're gonna have to choose between cluster and slug ammo. Just over 1000 battle value, you're not gonna find much better at that price. Crusader 4D, 4.6 standard engine, couple of close range weapons, 2 LRM-15s, what's not to like? For 1310 BV, that's a solid heavy. Penetrator 4D, we already went over it, better than the Gallo Glass in my opinion. Penetrator might literally be the reason to play St. Ives if you wanted to play them. Now I would love to play these guys just to play the Penetrator, but I'm gonna have to take the Orion instead of one of the better command console mechs. I could go without the command console, but I like to have it. It's a nice advantage. Blackjack 2, this is not an Omni mech. It's twin ER large lasers, and quad Streak SRM2s and standard engine make it a pretty solid light cavalry mech. At 1150 BV, it's pretty strong. Now, you might be wondering, where are the clan mechs? Well, first of all, I don't really play clans very much, because I'd rather not be a vat-grown lunatic with more honor than sense, and I'd rather not give my opponents any particular advantage. No, seriously, it's just because I don't really play clans. This was already very time-intensive putting together all of these mechs, so I'm not about to go and do that for all of the clan factions as well. Feel free to issue your batchalls in the comments. I will continue to dare to refuse your batchalls. But if you want to leave some comments down there about great clan mechs that the clan factions could use, feel free. If you want to join into this tournament, there is a link in the description for you to join the MRC and hop on in. We'll be playing in May. We would love to have you. Everyone there is super nice, and they'll be more than willing to help you get set up with Mega Mech and play some practice games. While you're down there, please like, share, subscribe. Really helps out the channel. We've reached 500 subscribers this week. That is a huge milestone, everyone. I'd like to thank all the mech warriors and mech commanders out there for your continued support. Hope to see you out there on the battlefield in May. Thanks for watching, mech warriors, and have a great day.